Reborn as the village chief, building a trillion-dollar empire from scratch. Please subscribe. Episode 81. 3 of the top 10 richest people in the world are Cao Fengqi's people? In the financial crisis of 2008, ordinary people in China did not suffer much impact. Most people only know that Lehman Brothers, ranked 4th in country M, went bankrupt. Little did they know that Lehman Brothers was not the only bank that went bankrupt, but a total of 25 banks. Nowadays, there are 5 top investment banks in country M. The first is Goldman Sachs, the second is Morgan Stanley, the third is Merrill Lynch, the fourth is Lehman Brothers, and the fifth is Bell's. During this year, except for Cao Fengqi who survived, Morgan Stanley's share price plummeted 3 times and survived. Merrill Lynch, which ranked 3rd, and Bell's Bank, which ranked 5th, both ended up being acquired. If 3 of the 5 major investment banks are reduced, you can understand how terrifying this financial crisis is. Cao Fengqi's $5.6 billion is not a lot in today's market. He put $700 million of Steve Ocker's money into Morgan Stanley to short the stock price of their bank. Cao Fengqi estimated that it could earn them about $500 million. Helping them earn $500 million in just a few months is definitely a huge gift to them. However, his funds are placed in higher profit areas. Cao Fengqi sat in front of the computer, checking the information one by one, and put the money in one by one. The most investment was still used to short Lehman Brothers. It took 4 days for Cao Fengqi to quietly invest all the funds in the market without interest. You still have to keep it secret, and you can't expose yourself. Cao Fengqi thought to himself. With his PhD in computer science and PhD in finance, he can still do it while hiding underwater. In addition, he clearly remembers that during this crisis, a guy named Paulson made tens of billions of dollars. He began to plan for the financial crisis a year ago, and this year's battle made him famous on Wall Street. But then he failed one after another, for no apparent reason. He doesn't want to get into the spotlight of the capital for the time being. His current strength is still not enough. Time passes day by day. In addition to keeping an eye on the changes in the financial market, Cao Fengqi also paid attention to some domestic matters and asked Zhao Xian to start investing in movies in the new year. Zhao Xian sent him some scripts and he decided whether to invest. Boss, I heard that Maotai and Wuliangye Winery seem to be advertising in some movies. The two were on the phone, and Zhao Xian reported to him. Cao Fengqi heard this and smiled. Follow them. Play advertising with him? They can't afford it. Not to mention that he will never lose money when investing in movies, and he can even make money, which makes other liquor companies incomparable. Take now. Cao Fengqi looked at an invitation in front of him with a smile on his face. Invitation to Iron Man premiere. The world of Marvel has begun. As Marvel's only advertiser, when it comes to advertising, who will be his rival in the future? However, the invitation to this premiere has expired. Because it takes a 5-hour flight to go to Hollywood, and he has watched Iron Man 1 several times. He recently needed to read some scripts, select and invest, so he did not rush there. However, Lu Qingqing was invited. Currently, she, the world's pop queen, attends an event, and the price is as high as $1 million. Just by attending a premiere, walking on the red carpet, and complimenting someone afterwards, you can earn millions. This is the gold-making ability of the world's pop diva. Boss, I'm back. At this moment, a voice came over, followed by a tall and beautiful figure. Cao Fengqi looked over with a smile on his face. Dear boss, do you think my clothes look good? Hee, this is what I wore for the event today. Lu Qingqing walked over in beautiful clothes, wearing an imperial green nothing sign around her neck, and an imperial green bracelet in her hand, showing him a noble and sexy look. This aloof pop queen was just a cute little woman in front of Cao Fengqi. Let him do it. Yeah, it looks good. Cao Fengqi smiled and nodded. Who designed these clothes? They are indeed pretty good. Yes? This is the designer our Fengqi Fengtian group recruited here. It was designed by a female designer named Anna. Anna is very powerful and has won a design award. Lu Qingqing came to his side happily. Of course, it's mainly because I'm beautiful, hee. Yes, a peerless beauty. Cao Fengqi smiled and hugged him into his arms. Fengqi Fengtian group has a branch in M country. Naturally, some designers have been recruited here. After all, there is a gap between Western popular styles and Chinese ones. It is impossible for Cao Fengqi to design all the clothes, so recruiting strong designers is essential. How was the movie today? He asked. I think it's pretty good, and it should do well at the box office. Lu Qingqing commented and took out her mobile phone. Also, hey, this is a clip from the movie that Marvel director Asman asked me to show you. Look, it is all about promoting your brand, boss. Oh yeah? Cao Fengqi raised his eyebrows and looked around. The clip that was played at the beginning was not long after the beginning of the movie. When Iron Man showed the weapons developed by his company to the buyers, there was a scene of him drinking. In the original scene, Iron Man was drinking whiskey, but now it is directly replaced by Joe liquor. You can see the clear logo, and even the protagonist Iron Man raised the bottle. A very obvious advertisement. When Cao Fengqi saw it, he was very satisfied. It was good. Marvel did not fool him. In the following shots, there are also many soft advertisements about Fengqi Yufengtian brand, clothes and watches, which are very eye-catching. These are not the kind of advertisements that pass by in a flash. The total time of these embedded advertisements is no less than 170 seconds. The 150 seconds of negotiation with them were much longer. Obviously, Asman wants to please his capitalist father. As for these embedded advertisements, in Cao Fengqi's opinion, they have no impact on the entire movie. Very good. Cao Fengqi also said happily. He clearly remembers that the movie Iron Man 1 ranked 8th at the global box office in 2008. This ranking can be said to be a great victory. The era of Marvel began here. In addition, this movie also achieved a box office of more than 90 million yuan in China. Although it did not enter the top 10, it has become more popular with the rise of Marvel movies in later generations. The number of views of this movie will definitely far exceed that of other movies of the same year. Box office is part of it, but the number of viewers in future generations is even more important. After all, future generations of people will be able to see the advertisements for their Caojia Village enterprises. The embedded advertising time is indeed quite long. Lu Qingqing also smiled and nodded. As long as Iron Man becomes popular, boss, your Fengqi Fengtian group will also gain a lot of popularity. Cao Fengqi nodded. This year, we will open 5 more stores in Country M, and we will also start to expand in other countries. Once the financial crisis is over, luxury goods will develop rapidly. He wants to seize the market as soon as possible. In addition, this year, the financial crisis broke out, and housing prices in the West dropped by at least 30 to 40%. Taking advantage of this wave of expansion, we can save a lot of money. Cao Fengqi was in a good mood. Except for the initial unfavorable start, everything went very smoothly. The funds in his hands have doubled in this financial market, especially where he invested in Lehman Brothers. March, Lehman Brothers stock price plummets and it lays off 5,300 people. April, 3 funds under Lehman Brothers entered liquidation. Now, it has entered May. Time passed little by little again, but on this day, Cao Fengqi was invited again. Dear brother, our Marvel Iron Man movie is a great success. We will hold a celebration party in 2 days. If you have time, brother, you must come. Asman called and invited him. Oh? Really? Huh, congratulations then. Cao Fengqi congratulated and thought for a moment. I will be there on time in 2 days. Oh. Great, I'll be waiting for my brother to arrive then. Asman said happily. Obviously, this Marvel movie was successful. Cao Fengqi wasn't too surprised by this. He had been staying here for almost 3 months and was ready to go out for a walk. It has now entered June, and just now, news has spread that Lehman Brothers suffered a loss of $2.8 billion in the second quarter, and Lehman Brothers is replacing a new president. It's almost time to close the net. A smile appeared on Cao Fengqi's face. Besides, it's time to check out some car brands. Buzz. While he was thinking, his cell phone received a message. Oker, brother, I heard from Asman that you are going to attend Marvel's celebration party. It just so happens that I will go too. This information is within a group. Facebook software chat group. In addition to him, there are also Oker, Steve, Zach Dubin, and Zach Borg in the group. Although Cao Fengqi did not bring Zach Borg with him in this action, he told his senior to follow him in the short trade. Zach Borg is different from Oker and others. His relationship with Zach Borg is that they started a business together, and the friendship between the two parties is beyond comparison. Cao Fengqi immediately replied, okay, come and gather. When he just sent this message, he saw an unexpected message. Steve, Marvel's celebration party? I'll go over and have a look too. By the way, brother Cao, Bill Gates has often told me recently that I should find an opportunity to invite you to a party. How about we come together this time? Cao Fengqi raised his eyebrows when he saw this information. The last time he invested, he didn't meet Bill Gates, the world's richest man. The other party just sent the money to him. Now. He did not hide the fact that he was shorting Morgan Stanley Investment Bank from Steve and the others. Now that nearly 4 months have passed, they know exactly how much they have earned. This ability to make money even moved the world's richest man. When he showed his true strength, when he made hundreds of millions in just over 4 months, the richest man took the initiative to show his goodwill. In everything, strength speaks and interests speak. Cao Fengqi smiled. Reply, okay, how about we get together, Zach, are you free? Sac DuPont, yes, yes. What time? Sac Dubin, who was peeking at the screen, immediately replied. In recent days, he has been extremely concerned about the investment of Cao Fengqi, a young man from China. When he saw the stock price of Morgan Stanley plummeting, he was shocked. From the beginning to now, he has earned $200 million. A total of $200 million. This is the reason why he only invested $100 million. Several other people in the group earned more. Although he is a core member of the Dubong family, and his father is the leader of the Dubong family, their family has too many people after all. His personal assets are only about $1 billion, and his father's side should have several billion $. But there is another point. Although I am the successor, I still have brothers and sisters. Now that the god of wealth has easily helped himself earn $200 million, he naturally wants to please him. He already knew that last year, Ochre Steve and the others made $200 million following him. Cao Fengqi raised the corners of his mouth slightly when he saw his quick reply. Steve, I'll send you the address the night after tomorrow. At this time, Steve replied to him. Cao Fengqi watched and then sent a private message to Zach Berg, asking him to come over as well. This time, let's let the people in their small circle get together. Current circle: Steve, Bill Gates, Zach Borg, Ochre, Zach Dubin. Ochre and Sac Dubin are both family members. Their families are very powerful, but their own wealth is not very high. However, Steve, Bill Gates, and Zach Borg, in later generations, the three of them are regulars in the top 10 of the world's richest people, and can even be said to be firmly in the top 10 in the world. 3 of the top 10 richest people in the world are my own people? Episode 82. The world's richest man joins, and the income is higher than that of the stock god. Of course, what is certain at present is that Zach Borg is one of his own. Whether he can draw Bill Gates, Steve, and the others to him still requires some manipulation from him. This operation is very simple for him. 2 days later, Cao Fengqi originally planned to go to Hollywood alone, but Lu Qingqing pestered him to go with him. There was no other way. The pop queen gave him benefits and acted coquettishly, and Cao Fengqi also agreed. Oh, my dear brother Cao, you are finally here. And dear Queen Amber, welcome. This time the celebration party was not held in Beverly Hills. Obviously, this celebration banquet needs to be more formal. In the top-floor banquet hall of the Hilton 5-star hotel, there were not many people present. Asman saw Cao Feng coming up and greeted him enthusiastically. Congratulations to brother Asman. Cao Fengqi hugged her. Marvel has achieved great success this time. Brother Cao, you are wrong, you are our marvel. Asman said with a smile. Yes, our marvel. Cao Fengqi couldn't help but laugh. Damn it, does Marvel belong to him? Well, that's right, I am a different type of shareholder. Brother Ochre has arrived. Asman led him towards the back. I'll take you over there, brother Cao. I heard that the richest man, Mr. Bill Gates, Mr. Steve, and the Dubin family's Sac Dubin also come? Well, yes. Cao Feng nodded. There is also one of my seniors, Zach Berg, brother Asman. Don't bother me? Why bother? This is our honor. Asman waved his hands quickly, looking a little excited. Brother Cao, you are really amazing. We at Marvel are so lucky to have you as our partner. Cao Fengqi smiled and wanted to say, brother, stop licking, you are also a Hollywood boss after all. Asman's net worth and background are not small, but it all depends on who he is compared to. He is incomparable to Ochre, let alone the members of the Bilges Dubin family. In front of this kind of person, he is just the younger brother and cannot enter the other person's circle. When Lu Qingqing heard what he said, she looked at Cao Fengqi in shock and asked in a low voice, Bill Gates, the richest man in the world, will also come? Cao Fengqi nodded to her, his little face full of shock. The name Bill Gates is very intimidating nowadays. This man has been the richest man for a long time and is a top figure in the world's shopping malls. This made Lu Qingqing look at Cao Fengqi with even more admiration and obsession. Brother, you are here. Ochre, who was chatting with an actress ahead, saw Cao Fengqi and came over immediately. Cao Fengqi smiled and patted his shoulder. I'm really shocked, brother, you are so awesome, right? Each of us has earned 400 million, right? Ochre hugged his shoulders excitedly and whispered, you are so awesome. Don't blame them for not being excited, it's only been 4 months since they last met. However, the $200 million they handed over to Cao Fengqi has now tripled, which means a net profit of $400 million. Earn $100 million a month? This is like picking up money. Cao Fengqi smiled faintly, as long as you pay attention to the market, you can analyze it, Ji Chao. Ochre opened his mouth? You don't know that the subprime mortgage crisis and the financial crisis have already started to break out, right? Cao Fengqi looked at him jokingly and continued to joke, now the world financial crisis has begun. I'll watch some news and understand a little bit. Ochre smiled coquettishly. Brother, please don't slap me in the face. I'm not good at finance, but I have good vision and good luck. Let me meet Brother Cao. It's good to lick. Cao Fengqi said with a smile. Haha, okay? Ochre said proudly. Asman, who was on the side, heard what they said and saw Akal, who was licking a dog, and felt a little upset in his heart. What do you mean? Each person earned 400 million US dollars? This? He was filled with envy in his heart. He thought of the people who were about to arrive and had a guess in his mind. He also wants to join, but he doesn't seem to be qualified. Buzz. Not long after Cao Fengqi and Ochre talked, Zach Berg called. After he connected, he said something, and then looked at Ochre. I'm senior, I'll pick it up. Then let's go together. Ochre said with a smile. Several people went over and greeted Zach Borg. Nowadays, Zach Borg has not yet completely risen to prominence. This is the first time for him from a middle-class family to have such a banquet party. He stood beside Cao Fengqi a little shyly. Cao Fengqi patted him on the shoulder. Senior, let me introduce you to some friends. Boss, thank you. Zach Borg said gratefully to him. He knew that this was the boss who brought him to make some connections. Cao Fengqi looked at him and felt amused. In later generations, he was a big boss in his own right. Not long after, Steve, Zach Dubin and Bill Gates arrived together. Asman and other Marvel executives and shareholders immediately welcomed him warmly. There were bright words in his mouth. Several people, led by Asman, came to their side. Wow, Amber. Zach Dubin still brought his girlfriend AI Lee. When he saw Lu Qingqing, his face showed a look of surprise, as if a fan met his idol. Hello. Lu Qingqing smiled and stretched out her hand. Then let's go and chat aside without disturbing them. Okay. Ellie nodded immediately. Zach Dubin smiled at the side. Brother Cao, I didn't expect Queen Amber to be your girlfriend. Besides, thank you for helping me make money this time. Brother Cao is really powerful. Bill Gates wore a pair of glasses and stretched out his hand to him with a smile. Dr. Harvard, I admire you. Brother Bill Gates is admirable. Cao Fengqi stretched out his hand and shook his hand, also very politely. The seniors in the shopping mall are worth learning from. I'm just lucky. Bill Gates shook his head modestly. It seems that we are quite lucky. Cao Fengqi smiled. Bill Gates and the others had obviously investigated some of his information and were obviously aware of his achievements. In addition, he helped them make a fortune this time. Otherwise, how could the world's richest man come up and call him brothers? No, Brother Cao, you have real power. Now that the financial crisis has broken out and the stock prices of major companies have plummeted and they are facing financial difficulties, you are really powerful for being able to swim against the current. Bill Gates shook his head. His kind words were free of charge and he kept praising him. Of course, he really meant what he said. It just happened to me. Cao Fengqi smiled modestly. Brother, how long do you think this crisis will last? Steve asked curiously. I dare not guess how long it will take, but I feel that it has not reached its peak yet. Cao Fengqi smiled. The funds invested can wait. The current crisis has not yet reached its final breaking point. The real peak was the day when Lehman Brothers declared bankruptcy. Yeah? Zach Dubin raised his eyebrows, and then said bitterly, speaking of which, I hope it will end quickly, but I also hope it won't end. The prices of some of my properties have dropped very sharply. Historically, the outbreak of financial crises is a reshuffle of wealth. Cao Fengqi said calmly, it may be a crisis, but it may be an opportunity. Once the crisis passes, high-quality assets will be greatly improved. When Bill Gates heard what he said, he raised his eyebrows and nodded silently. What industries are Brother Cao optimistic about in the future, he couldn't help but ask. Now is the trough for major companies, but I believe that some companies can grow dozens of times or even more in the future. Cao Fengqi did not answer his words, but spoke confidently. For a rich man of this level, he has to keep a secret. If he wants to make money, he can follow me. Bill Gates looked at him unexpectedly, and then thought, Brother Cao, your Fengqi Yufengqian group is developing very fast. It's very good. I wonder if you have any ideas for financing? Cao Fengqi looked at him, then shook his head and said with a smile, after the financial crisis, it will develop faster. Brother, do you believe it? I believe your watch is indeed quite beautiful. Bill Gates smiled and showed off his watch. Brother Bill Gates, you should have told me earlier and I would give you more. Cao Fengqi laughed when he saw it. He didn't expect that the world's richest man would actually want to invest in his company, and he came prepared. Do you believe in yourself? Or are you surprised by the speed of development of Fengqi Yufengqian Group? I am optimistic about the development of Marvel, so I invested $400 million in them to monopolize their future advertising placement. In addition, Amber will only endorse my company's brand in the future. Cao Fengqi continued with a smile. Brother Cao is indeed very good, and the product design is also very good. Bill Gates nodded and said with a smile, my investment consultant also suggested that I get some shares, huh? Then it seems that my company really has the potential to take off. Cao Fengqi said politely, but my company will not raise funds for the time being. Well, I will soon set up a small investment institution. Brother Bill Gates and you can join in. With your ability, Brother Cao, it will be no problem for us to put the money with you. Steve said with a smile. I won't mince words with you. I am a small investment institution and currently only a few of you can join. Cao Fengqi looked at them and said directly, the annual interest rate will not be less than 50%. If it is lower, you can turn around and leave. Of course, you are all rich people, and the share of funds I accept will be limited to within a region. Huh? What? 50%? Oker couldn't help but exclaimed, with a look of shock on his face. The annual interest rate is 50%, which is definitely a very scary number. Even in today's world, the annual interest rate of the stock god Buffy is only more than 20%. That's it, he is already the world's stock god. This, Brother Cao, is it true? Sak Dubin also looked at him in shock. This is equivalent to giving 1 billion to the other party, and next year it will become 1.5 billion. This is simply a money grab. Buffy is a good friend of mine. He was only able to reach 50% between 1950 and 1955. I asked him about it, and he said that it was because he had relatively small funds at that time that he was able to reach such an interest rate. Now that he has more funds, the interest rate of more than 20 is the limit. Bill Gates has a very good relationship with the stock god. It was also because of the stock god's advice not to put all your eggs in one basket that he hired an investment consultant and sold his Weirone shares in a big way. He said, looking at Cao Fengqi, I don't know, Brother Cao, what is your capital limit? Within $5 billion, I am currently confident. Cao Fengqi said, in fact, based on his understanding of future generations, he is confident that he can achieve this annual rate if he is given $100 billion to manage. However, he said too much. These guys are really rich. If they really put $1 to $2 billion here, it would reduce their chances of making money in disguise. At the same time, it also prevents them from finding bank loans and then investing their money with him. At that time, in a few years, he could expand this fund, because the world economy would develop more rapidly in a few years, and companies would take off crazily every year. In a few years, everyone will believe in him, and he can also take some long-term risks and hold some company shares for a long time. When Bill Gates heard his words, his eyes were slightly shaken. He now has $2 to $3 billion in liquidity. But his investment consultant, the investment manager he hired, could guarantee an interest rate of 25% at most. In such a comparison, the investment consultant I spent a lot of money on is nothing. Brother, no, my eldest brother, you are better than the stock god. Oker has no doubts about Cao Fengqi's words, because he has proven himself with his strength whether last year or this year. Well, Brother Cao, how about we have a good talk tomorrow? Bill Gates was a little moved. He wants to join. Episode 83. The Power of Wealth. No need to do it yourself, powerful aura. Money moves people's hearts, but interests also move people's hearts. Cao Fengqi's guaranteed 50% interest rate even moved Bill Gates, not to mention Steve, Sak DuPont and Oker. They all looked at him with burning eyes. Cao Fengqi smiled casually, picked up the red wine on the table next to him, and handed it to everyone one by one. He raised his hand to signal. Everyone also smiled slightly and raised their glasses together. An alliance of interests with a very small number of people but a huge background was formally established. As for how big this interest alliance can become and how far it can go, it depends on Cao Fengqi himself. Brother, when will we leave this investment? Steve looked at Cao Fengqi and asked. A month. He said, I guess, by then, each person will be able to make about $500 million in profit. Ha, it happened. Oker couldn't help laughing. $500 million is a huge sum of money to him. Cao Fengqi smiled, by the way, do any of you know the shareholders of Mercedes-Benz and the Maybach brand? And Porsche. Brother Cao, I can help you make an introduction. Sak Dubin immediately said, are you really going to buy Porsche? And that Maybach? Sak Dubin's family is engaged in the automobile industry, and he knows this industry very well. To acquire such a brand is a huge sum of money. Yes, I want to buy both brands. Cao Fengqi nodded. Although the funds were still in the financial market, the acquisitions of Porsche and Maybach were about to proceed. After all, such a large acquisition cannot be completed in a day or two. Porsche versus Maybach? Bill Gates on the side looked at him. I don't know much about Porsche, but this Maybach is closely related to Mercedes-Benz. It is basically a high-end brand of Mercedes-Benz. Will Mercedes-Benz sell it? The sales volume of Maybach is very small. As long as the money is available, the other party will probably sell it. Cao Fengqi smiled and said. Regarding the relationship between Mercedes-Benz and Maybach, it can be said that the relationship is very deep, which can be seen from the similarity of the models. In fact, today's Maybach has part of its shares in Mercedes-Benz and the other part in its shareholders. The reason why Cao Fengqi is confident in acquiring Maybach is mainly because of Maybach's current situation. Maybach was comparable to Rolls-Royce a long time ago. However, it was silent for 60 years before 2002. This brand did not build a car in 60 years. Maybach was pulled out by Mercedes-Benz in 2002 to restart Maybach, mainly to deal with Rolls-Royce of the BMW group. The current price of Maybach is higher than that of Rolls-Royce. Buying one in China costs tens of millions. This also resulted in its sales being disastrous, with only a little over 100 units sold a year, or even less than 100 units a year, less than 1/10 or a few tenths of Rolls-Royce. In 2013, it directly announced the suspension of production and was later fully acquired by Mercedes-Benz, becoming the high-end Maybach series of Mercedes-Benz cars, focusing on the price range of more than $1 million. In other words, the current profit of Maybach in a year is at most 10 to 20 million US dollars, or even less than that. During the current financial crisis, the possibility of Cao Fengqi acquiring it is extremely high. Of course, another thing is that the money must be in place. Bill Gates smiled and said, "That I wish brother Cao a successful acquisition. If a new car comes out in the future, I will buy one. I can accompany you, brother, to country D." Sak Dubin said. "Oh. Thank you, brother Sak." Cao Fengqi looked at him and thanked him with a smile. "Brother Cao, you don't have to thank me. It's me who thanks you." Sak Dubon shook his head quickly. Cao Fengqi smiled and stopped being polite to him. "Then I may have to rush there in the next few days." "No problem, I have time." Sak Dubin nodded. Crack. "What are you doing?" While everyone was talking, suddenly, there was a crisp sound and a scolding sound coming from the side. When everyone looked at it, Cao Fengqi also looked away and immediately frowned. On the right, Lu Qingqing and Ali stood aside, the wine glasses in their hands fell to the ground, and they were glaring at a young man. "Fake, don't you understand simple etiquette?" The young man stared at Lu Qingqing with a somewhat embarrassed expression. "Aren't you just a singer? Why are you so arrogant with me?" Cao Fengqi looked at it and walked straight over with a sullen face. Steve and Bill Gates on the side saw everyone see it and followed them. In the center, Asman and a group of Marvel shareholders and executives also noticed this scene. Their expressions changed slightly, and they rushed over immediately. In the entire banquet hall, there are 3 places that are the most eye-catching, one of which is Cao Fengqi's side. After all, they are the richest man in the world. However, they were talking just now, and it was obvious that some other people did not dare to come over and talk to them. As for the other 2 places, one is with a group of shareholders and executives of Marvel, and the other is with Lu Qingqing and the others. Now Lu Qingqing is the most popular singer in the entire West, and even the entire world. After becoming an instant hit last year, the album has already ranked 7th on the world's top 10 album sales charts. And last year he won various major music awards, including the world's most authoritative Grammy Award. This year, another song was released, which also topped the major music charts and was loved by countless fans. Her current popularity is beyond that of future Swifties. Absolute phenomenon level. Therefore, a lot of people gathered around Lu Qingqing, including celebrities and some rich people who were invited. "What's wrong?" Cao Fengqi walked over and asked Lu Qingqing with concern. "Boss." When Lu Qingqing saw him coming, she immediately came to his side and shouted softly. "It's this guy who wants to take advantage of you by kissing your hand as a courtesy, huh?" When Ali saw her boyfriend and Cao Fengqi arriving, she took the initiative and said, "You think we don't understand, do you? The kiss on the hand is just a sign of respect for married women. This guy just wants to act like a hooligan." When Cao Fengqi heard this, he frowned slightly and looked at the young man. "Oh. My God, just kissing the palm is taking advantage? Do you see yourself too?" The young man was about to speak angrily, but before he could finish his words, he looked at Cao Fengqi and the group of people beside him. His expression suddenly froze, and he swallowed unconsciously. Because he saw familiar figures surrounding the man beside Lu Qingqing. The founder of Reborn, the famous richest man in the world. Reborn's shareholder is Steve, who is also a top rich man. The family behind the Nokia group, Oker. And someone he didn't recognize, but was obviously very noble. They held red wine glasses in their hands, frowning slightly and staring at him with cold eyes. This scene made him feel like he was being stared at by the king of beasts, and he was just a little rabbit. He thought of what some people were talking about just now, a focus circle in the banquet hall. The aura, the invisible yet powerful aura, made his heart tremble. Which group is he from? At this time, Sakdubin saw Asman and others arriving, took a sip of red wine, and asked them calmly, "Or which family does it belong to?" "Mr. Sakdupont, Brother Cao, I'm sorry." When Asman heard Sakdubin's inquiry, he was shocked and quickly apologized. "The other party is a small shareholder of our Marvel company, and his family's main business is also in the food industry." "Mr. Sakdubin?" The young man in front saw Marvel's major shareholder Asman quickly apologizing, and his body trembled when he heard the other party's name. In Country M, there is only one family that can make Asman so respected and whose surname is Dubong. Looking at the other group of them, he was suddenly shocked. His back felt cold and his scalp felt numb. "I'm sorry, sir, I'm sorry, Miss Amber, I'm sorry, I just drank too much, damn it, please forgive me." He quickly bowed down in fear, and slapped himself in the face as he spoke, causing his forehead to sweat instantly. "Please forgive me." Lu Qingqing was slightly startled by his sudden apology. This young man who was a little arrogant just now turned out to be as timid as a dog. Cao Fengqi looked at this scene and raised his eyebrows. To have an elite from Country M bow down and apologize so sincerely, wealth and power are really. Forget it, don't disturb everyone's interest. Cao Fengqi spoke slowly and did not argue with the young man. Of course, the most important thing is that this guy admits his mistakes relatively quickly and even slaps his face, so he won't care about such a small person. Although, as long as you say a word, Sakdubin, Ochre and others will help you to deal with them. Yes, thank you for your forgiveness, sir, and thank you for your forgiveness, Miss Amber. The young man was relieved and kept thanking him with his head lowered. Asman walked up to him, patted his shoulder heavily, and said expressionlessly, "If you drink too much, go home and sleep." "Yes, yes." The young man did not dare to fart one more time and left in despair. Everyone around looked at this scene, and their hearts were slightly shocked, looking at the young man next to the pop queen. He couldn't help but look at the people around him. "Brother Cao, Queen Amber, I'm so sorry." Asman came over, apologized sincerely again, and then said to everyone around him, "This is me, Asman, our noble man from Marvel. He invested 400 million in our Marvel during our difficult times and became our Marvel's the only advertiser. Cheers to our friends, our friends. Thank you Cao Fengqi for your investment and trust in our Marvel." Some shareholders also quickly raised their glasses and said. Cao Fengqi also smiled and raised the red wine in his hand to signal with a smile. Asman has given him enough face, and he will not lose the other person's face. This little disturbance at the banquet did not have much impact. But the news about tonight's party may spread throughout Hollywood. At least all celebrities and even capital know that behind the Queen Amber, there is a huge capital guarding her. After the one-night banquet, Cao Fengqi gathered with Bill Gates again the next day. A simple chat among a group of people can be regarded as a way to enhance some feelings and become familiar with each other. On the third day, Cao Fengqi flew to Country D with Sak Dubong. In Country D, the most famous industry is automobiles. It is also the birthplace of the automobile. Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Audi, Volkswagen, Porsche, Skoda, Maybach, Rolls-Royce, Lamborghini, Bugatti, etc., these world-famous brands all come from this country. I don't know if it can be successful. Stuttgart, the sixth largest city in Country D, appeared in sight, and Cao Fengqi looked down through the glass of the plane. Porsche and Daimler, Mercedes-Benz, are all located here. Episode 84. China's unparalleled move, Cao Fengqi's 100 billion acquisition Part 1. The plane lands. At the exit, a luxurious Rolls-Royce was waiting at the door. "Our family's group has a branch here," Sakdubin said to Cao Fengqi with a smile. Cao Fengqi nodded slightly. "This is the top family in the world. No matter where they go, they have some energy. There are luxury cars for reception. This city looks pretty good." Cao Fengqi looked at the surrounding scene and commented with a smile. Yes, the industry in Stuttgart City is relatively developed and the greening is good. However, the entertainment industry is not good. Sakdupont said with a smile, "In the afternoon, I helped Brother Cao make an appointment with the Porsche family. Now Porsche is fighting fiercely with Volkswagen, but the Porsche family has already encountered a crisis." Cao Feng nodded, "Okay." During the recent period, Cao Fengqi also checked all the information about Volkswagen and Porsche. The battle between the two sides has begun in 2002. Because the Volkswagen CEO who slept with and married his cousin's wife even threatened to kill Porsche, this made the Porsche family extremely angry. So in order to acquire Volkswagen, the Porsche family bought Volkswagen shares on a large scale, and even borrowed 10 billion euros from the bank for this purpose. 10 billion euros, in this era, is equivalent to 14.7 billion US dollars. The Chinese currency is over 10 against the euro. Originally, Porsche had a chance to acquire Volkswagen. They already held 70% of the shares. As long as they reached 75%, they would be able to completely control it. However, due to the financial crisis, Porsche sales plummeted. This also caused the Porsche family's financial chain to break. In addition, they have a bank loan to repay soon. Later, Volkswagen took advantage of this and counter-acquired the Porsche company, buying 49.9% of Porsche's shares for €4 billion. Later, it bought all the remaining shares for €4.46 billion, achieving 100% control. Looking at future generations, although Volkswagen acquired Porsche cars. However, when the Porsche family acquired Volkswagen, it was done in the name of the Porsche Family Investment Company. In other words, although Porsche was acquired by Volkswagen, the Porsche family owns a large part of the entire Volkswagen group. However, they only enjoy dividend rights and lose management rights. It's hard to say who will lose and who will win. Cuckolding, seizing his cousin's wife, acquisition, and counter-acquisition. When Cao Fengqi combined his memories with the information he found now, he was dumbfounded. It was extremely exciting. However, he also discovered a serious problem, that is, if he wanted to acquire Porsche, $8 billion was definitely not enough. Even $10 billion may not be able to stop it. According to the purchase price of later generations of Porsche, it was €8.446 billion. Converted into US dollars, it would be more than $11.8 billion. The most important point is that he can't guarantee that he can get it at this price. After all, he is an outsider, and although the family is in chaos now, it is still the same family. At around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Cao Fengqi came to the factory of Porsche headquarters under the leadership of Sak Dubong. In a conference room, he met several core figures of the Porsche family. Mr. Wolf, everyone, this is my very good brother, Fengqi Cao, who is interested in acquiring your company's brand cars. Sak Dubon introduced to everyone. Cao Fengqi extended his hand to them in a friendly manner, while also looking at the old man in front of him who should be in his 60s. This guy was cuckolded by his cousin, and he had S*X with his cousin. Wolf also extended his hand to Cao Fengqi to show friendship, but he said calmly, "Our Porsche car brand has no intention of selling it." When Cao Fengqi heard what he said, he didn't care, Mr. Wolf, I know you are preparing to acquire Volkswagen, but the sudden financial crisis has caused your company's brand sales to plummet. You owe a lot of money to the bank and are in urgent need of money. I think it's not a bad thing for you to get rid of the Porsche brand. Mr. Cao, but we have not yet reached the point of selling our family's core assets. Wolf responded with a smile. Cao Fengqi also smiled, took out a document, and looked through it pretendingly. Under the financial crisis, the assets of the world's elites will depreciate, and the sales of luxury cars will fall. No one knows how long this crisis will last. Years, what if it lasts for 5 years, 8 years, or 10 years? On the contrary, now that the economy is down, the sales of low-priced cars are better. Of course, this is not the most important point. Based on your current situation, if Volkswagen conducts a counter-takeover of you at this time, how will you respond? Of course, you don't have to sell. The problem is, your bank loans are needed repaid. He spoke and analyzed without speaking too clearly. The other party understood the current situation. But he raised one point: Volkswagen is anti-takeover. In addition, Cao Fengqi looked at them and continued, Porsche is just a brand of your family, but if you acquire Volkswagen owns Bentley, Audi, Bugatti, Lamborghini, Volkswagen, and many other brands. I think using a Porsche the brand, in exchange for so many brands, is totally worth it. Wolf did not speak, with a trace of contemplation on his face. He handed Cao Feng a cigarette and slowly spoke after dozens of seconds. We need to consider this, but Mr. Cao should know about our Porsche technology and brand. Can you afford the price? Of course I know the brilliance of Porsche, so... Cao Fengqi took the cigarette and turned it around in his hand. $10 billion is my valuation of the entire Porsche car. The world's economy is very difficult now, and there are not many groups that can afford $10 billion. $10 billion is too low. Wolf shook his head, but he still showed enthusiasm and said with a smile, Mr. Cao, I can take you to our factory to see it. Okay, sorry for the trouble. Cao Fengqi said with a smile. No trouble, even if the cooperation fails this time, we still hope to become friends with Mr. Cao. Wolf said with a smile. The Porsche family, who can spend tens of billions of dollars, should also treat this kind of people with enthusiasm. Okay, business cannot be done without righteousness. Cao Fengqi smiled and nodded, and then followed them around the Porsche headquarters. In the evening, the other party even entertained him at a well-known local 5-star hotel. Brother Cao, it seems that the Porsche family is interested in selling. At the end of the day, Sak Dubon said to him. There should be some intentions. Cao Feng nodded, and he could tell. Otherwise, the other party would not be so hospitable. The grievances between the two sides were deeper than he imagined. During the banquet in the evening, he even heard the Wolf brothers scolding their cousin, the current CEO of Volkswagen. But think about it, is there any greater hatred in this world than cuckoldry? Is there any greater hatred than clamoring to kill your company? So Cao Fengqi also bluntly told them that exchanging a Porsche for a Volkswagen is worth it. Even from Cao Feng's own perspective, it is worth it. After all, Volkswagen's brands are too luxurious. Volkswagen currently sells 6 million vehicles a year, while Porsche may only sell tens of thousands more this year. In 2008, Volkswagen's market value reached $60 billion. Regardless of whether he can buy this kind of group, if he was given a choice, he would choose the public. The Porsche family should also know. However, the other party did not give him a clear message today. After all, selling Porsche cars is also a very important decision for the Porsche family. Shall we go to the Maybach company tomorrow morning? Cao Fengqi looked at Sak Dubong and asked. Yes. He nodded. I have made an appointment with them at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Okay, it's been a busy day today, let's take a good rest first. Cao Fengqi patted his shoulder and said with a smile. Knowing someone from such a powerful family can indeed save him a lot of things. Otherwise, it would be very troublesome for me to meet the Porsche family, the president of Mercedes-Benz, and Maybach shareholders. After a night's rest, the two of them finished breakfast and rushed to Maybach's company again. When he arrived, they were greeted by the presidents of Maybach and Mercedes-Benz, as well as a group of senior executives from the other side. The other party gave the Dubin family enough face. Similarly, if they are willing to meet, it also means that the business can be negotiated. This Mr. Cao wants to acquire our Maybach brand? Maybach President Corey also got straight to the point and looked at Cao Fengqi. Yes. Cao Fengqi nodded. I like this brand very much and have an in-depth understanding of the Maybach brand. Nowadays, your brand's annual profit is very low. I wonder if you have any ideas about selling it. I will give you a good price. He didn't hide it. It can be said that he had the temperament of taking advantage of others. He told the other party that as long as he sold it, he would pay a good price. Because in Cao Fengqi's plan, Jaguar Land Rover does not need to be acquired, and even Porsche does not need to be acquired, but Maybach is the most important to him. First, this brand is now very high-end and is on the same level as Rolls-Royce. Another most important point is that the later generation Mercedes-Benz Maybach, with a price of more than 1 million, has excellent sales. As long as he gets this brand, and then starts his own plagiarism business, hell, he can't do it with other brands? He even has the confidence to do a Porsche. After all, Porsche's popular model, the Panamera, has not yet been released. If I just change the logo and model, it will sell for more than 1 million by then. Maybach Panamera? Lamborghini's SUV, Urus, I directly turned into a Maybach Urus. At worst, I'll change it to a big standard for you. Luxury car logos plus popular models of later generations equals inevitable popularity. There is no doubt about it. Of course, the technical aspect must also keep up. China's internal combustion engine technology is completely inadequate. If he couldn't get a Porsche, he would buy a high-tech car company. He. Hearing Cao Fengqi's words, Maybach President Corey laughed. The president of Mercedes-Benz and other senior executives around him also laughed. Okay, but we have to discuss it. Maybach President Corey responded with a smile and looked at the people on the side. What do you think of this Chinese guy who wants to buy it? He said to them in D language. Does that backward Eastern country understand cars? Can they build a car? A middle-aged man couldn't help laughing. This Chinese guy looks very rich. I'll quote him $1 billion, haha. Oh. Kevin, you are really shady, but I think it is indeed possible, haha. In addition, we have to sign an agreement with him, that is, if the other party cannot continue to operate in the future, he can only sell it to us. This agreement is good. The sales volume of our Maybach brand is so low with the support of Mercedes-Benz technology. If the other party buys it, what can they do with the technology of their small country? Maybach is the top brand in Country D, our industrial empire. If it were bought by a Chinese, based on this alone, the outside world would probably not recognize the high-end brand. After all, high-end and luxury must be supported by technology and foundation. I think it is okay. If you want to sell it, he must sign the repurchase agreement. Maybe this will be a surprise for us in the future. A group of people talked and chatted without any cover-up, with smiles on their faces. Cao Fengqi sat there, raised his brows slightly, and continued to smile. However, in fact, he had already greeted the other party in his heart, and anger arose in his heart. Do you think you don't understand D language? Do you actually despise yourself in China so much? Damn it, if I acquire Maybach, I will definitely kill you. Even if it is as they said, Maybach's status as a Chinese brand will be reduced, but no matter how low it is, it can still be compared with Mercedes-Benz. After all, this is the Maybach of this era. Cao Fengqi sneered in his heart. Do you think that when I buy a Maybach, I want it to be a top-notch luxury car? Is it going to be a multi-million-dollar car? I'm going to pull it up to the Mercedes positioning. I want to F***ku. When the time comes, I will directly copy your interiors and benchmark them against your models. Your Mercedes-Benz S sells for millions, and my Maybach also sells for millions. Originally, Cao Fengqi was not prepared to let the Maybach drop below 1 million, but after hearing what they said? Damn it, when the time comes, we will build another one worth 500,000 yuan to benchmark your future Mercedes-Benz E-Class, then build an SUV, and then build an AMG model. Copy your popular models in future generations, and then F***ku. Will I lose? Episode 85. A surprise from heaven. The automobile business empire is established. It's only 100 billion. Mr. Cao, we discussed it, and regarding the sale of the Maybach brand, we agreed that we can agree to the price of $1 billion. In addition, we have an additional condition. If you want to resell this brand in the future, you must choose us. In the conference room of the Maybach headquarters, Corey smiled at Cao Fengqi and said. Cao Fengqi looked at them, shook his head and kept smiling. $1 billion? The two brands of Jaguar and Land Rover together only sold $2.3 billion to the Voltage Group. The sales of these two brands now are $200 million a year. It's more than $100 million. Will Maybach's annual sales be $100 million? I think the net profit is lower, $300 million. I can consider it. $300 million? Oh, yes, Mr. Cao, you really know how to joke. Our Maybach factory uses the most advanced equipment. In addition, the price of high-end brands is naturally much higher than that of Jaguar Land Rover. Corey spoke immediately. Mr. Cao, you don't have the sincerity to buy. The old man named Kevin on the side also frowned and said. Cao Fengqi sneered in his heart and said, Rolls-Royce was acquired by BMW in 1998. The purchase price at that time was $570 million. Although 10 years have passed, Maybach's current sales and profits are even higher than those of Rolls-Royce in 1998. If not, the brand value is incomparable, and with a price of $1 billion, no one will buy it. Regarding the Maybach brand and the acquisition cases in the automobile market, Cao Fengqi has done enough homework during this period. What's more, the conversation between a few people just now was purely to trick him. In addition, for $300 million, I can only take the Maybach brand, technology and patents, and of course, the assistance of technical personnel. Cao Fengqi continued, as for your factory here, I don't need it. Now that he has decided to work on Mercedes-Benz, it is impossible for Cao Fengqi to place the factory with them. Considering the relationship between Maybach and Mercedes-Benz, it is completely impossible for the factory to be placed here if the other party does not do some tricks behind the scenes. Therefore, Cao Fengqi only needs their brand, technology, patents, and the guidance of engineering personnel, and he will transfer the factory to China. Although China's development is relatively backward now, as long as it obtains technical support and advanced equipment, the quality of the vehicles it produces will not be worse than theirs. In later generations, how many international companies will produce their products from China? Especially in the case of automobiles, as long as you are willing to pile up materials, the quality will not be bad. The most typical example is that the quality of domestically produced BMWs is not inferior to the quality imported from country D. Even if there are some differences, they are in the interior materials. Corey and the others raised their eyebrows when they heard what he said. As long as their brands, technologies, patents, and technical personnel help? They looked at each other and said a few words in D. Since Mr. Cao doesn't need the factory, we can sell it to you for $600 million. Corey continued. Cao Fengqi smiled and continued to negotiate with them. His psychological expectation is to win the brand for $500 million. However, if the other party really insists on taking it down, he will grit his teeth and take it down. However, there must be some negotiation. Negotiations are like this. Even an acquisition worth hundreds of millions of dollars will take at least a few days. Cao Fengqi was not in a hurry. On the fourth day, Maybach company bid the figure of $530 million, and Cao Fengqi signed the acquisition agreement without saying anything more. Pay $400 million within 1 month. The follow-up investment of $130 million will require engineers from the Maybach company to teach Cao Fengqi all the Maybach technology. Settlement period is 1 year. This is what Cao Fengqi requested, and he wanted to make some guarantees. As for Maybach, if Cao Fengqi sells the Maybach brand again, they will take the lead. He didn't hesitate and agreed immediately. A pleasure to work with. A pleasure to work with. Cao Fengqi shook hands with President Maybach, and the two smiled. How long do you think this young man from China can be in business? I am now praying that this guy will not ruin the reputation of our Maybach brand, and it will be difficult to recover in the future. Our plan for the Maybach car was not successful anyway. We will have to lower its positioning after buying it back in the future. With the support of Mercedes-Benz, the problem is not that big. Looking at Cao Fengqi's leading figure, the former shareholders of Maybach discussed with smiles on their faces. In recent years, the profits that Maybach has brought to them have only been more than $10 million per year, and this year's profits have dropped a lot. Coupled with the emergence of the financial crisis, they predict that the next sales volume may be even lower. It was sold for $530 million, not including their factory equipment. In their opinion, they made a lot of money. Even in the future, Maybach may return to their arms. Thinking of this, the corners of everyone's mouths turned up slightly. Brother, the shareholders of Maybach are a bit shady. Sack Dubin and Cao Fengqi left. When he saw the transaction price, he couldn't help complaining. It doesn't matter. Cao Fengqi smiled, this price is acceptable. But now, Maybach does not have its own internal combustion engine technology. If, Brother Cao, you want to build a car. Sack Dubin said, then smiled, if you can acquire Porsche, brother, then everything will be different. Porsche's engines, gearboxes, and even chassis technology are among the best in the industry. Yes, if you can't win the Porsche, then look for other methods. Cao Fengqi smiled and said. Part of why Porsche is expensive lies in their technology. Almost all of them are at the top of the world. However, whether it can win the Porsche is still unknown. Buzz. However, at this moment, a phone call came. After seeing the name on it, he raised his eyebrows. After being connected, a look of surprise immediately appeared on his face. The Porsche family came to negotiate with him. Formal negotiations regarding the sale of their Porsche cars. The other party has agreed to negotiate. After hanging up the phone, Cao Fengqi said to Sack Dubon with twinkling eyes. Oh. Sack Dupont was also surprised. Congratulations to Brother Cao, but I don't know what price the other party will quote. Go and have a look. Cao Fengqi said with a smile. When he arrived at the Porsche headquarters, the other party revealed a sky-high price. $15 billion. Brother Wolf, although you owe $14.7 billion, you can't directly reimburse me $15 billion. Cao Fengqi looked at them speechlessly. What's more, you now hold a large number of Volkswagen shares in your hands, and these shares are not in the automobile company. He. Wolf smiled coquettishly. He also knew that the price was relatively high. We can talk about this later. So be it. Cao Fengqi looked at them and said directly, $11 billion. In addition, I invite your Porsche family to join my investment institution. In an investment institution? Wolf was slightly startled when he heard his words. Several Porsche family members on the side also looked at him in shock. It felt a little absurd and outrageous. Not to mention other things, aren't investment institutions trying every means to attract people to put their money with them? Why is this? Brother Wolf, don't be surprised yet. Cao Fengqi looked at them and smiled. My investment institution is in the form of a private partnership. It can guarantee that the annualized interest rate of your investment is 50%. You can sign an agreement. The current partners of the investment institution are Sack Du, Brothers Bang, Brother Bill Gates, Steve the Soft, and Oker, the family behind Nokia. Of course, there is one more thing. I can guarantee that such a high interest rate is subject to funding restrictions, but Brother Wolf, you can give me $1 billion. Cao Fengqi said, and Sack Dubon on the side smiled and added, I can guarantee it with the reputation of my family. At least 50% yield? Wolf choked, with a trace of shock on his face. Although it can only invest $1 billion, it will become $1.5 billion a year later. This is not a small amount. The world's richest man also invested in you? The middle-aged Porsche family member asked in surprise. Cao Fengqi smiled and nodded. Of course, everyone can meet in about a month. In addition, friends, I didn't take advantage of you when I offered you $11 billion for Porsche, and you should know that. He said sincerely. Although this price did not reach the price they sold in the previous life, you must know that part of Porsche shares were sold 2 or 3 years later, and by that time Porsche's sales had begun to increase by leaps and bounds. During the current financial crisis, his price is definitely not low, and it is a sincere price. In addition, there is one biggest reason why Cao Fengqi wants to attract the Porsche family into his circle. That is, he is not going to take over the Porsche brand himself in the future. He will still let the current management be responsible. Because later generations of Porsche were successful, he did not need to interfere with the other party's development. He only had to develop other brands. All you need to do is get the other party's technology and support. To do this, Porsche needs to be loyal to him and not play tricks behind his back. Then, there is only one way to tie them to you with benefits and let them do their best. He wanted the other party to know that if he stabbed him in the back, he would suffer huge losses. Also, if the Porsche family acquires Volkswagen, it will also cooperate with the Volkswagen Group in the future. For example, by the other party's 12-cylinder engine, etc. The price offered by Brother Cao is indeed very real, and the conditions mentioned are indeed attractive. Wolf nodded. Friends, you can think about it and don't be in a hurry. Anyway, there should still be a few months before you can repay the bank loan. Cao Fengqi said with a smile. The negotiation with Porsche was much more comfortable. Of course, this was mainly why the Porsche family respected him. Unlike the Maybach. Good. Wolf nodded, smiled at him and stretched out his hand. Brother Cao, I think the probability of our cooperation is 80%. I believe it will be 100% soon. The corners of Cao Fengqi's lips curled up slightly. He never expected that he would actually acquire a Porsche in this life. It seems that my luck is back, unlike the bad start at the beginning of the year. The two sides have reached a preliminary agreement. Both Cao Fengqi and Porsche are very satisfied. That day, as the hosts, Wolf and the others once again entertained them hospitably. However, his good luck did not end there. The next day, Cao Fengqi suddenly received a call. A call from the Volt. Mr. Cao, you said you want to buy our Land Rover, are you still ready to buy it now? David, the vice president of Volt Motors, asked him. When Cao Fengqi heard his words, he was completely stunned. What? President David, what's going on? Didn't you sell Land Rover to the Tata Group? He couldn't help but ask. It was originally planned to be sold, but after we decided to sell Jaguar and Volvo to each other, Land Rover stayed. David replied with a smile. Cao Fengqi? Good guy, is it because you changed history? Volvo belongs to Volvo Motors. According to history, this brand was acquired by China's Geely Group in 2010 for less than $1.8 billion. The trajectory of history has changed. Land Rover has not sold it to the other party, but now it wants to sell it to itself. Do you want to sell yourself a higher price? President David, what's the price? Cao Fengqi couldn't help but ask. $1.6 billion. David replied. When Cao Fengqi heard this, he felt that it was a bit expensive, so we should still be able to talk about it. However, now that I have acquired Porsche, Maybach, and Land Rover, I really want to build my own car business empire. The purchase price of these brands plus the cost of purchasing equipment and building factories. Damn it, even 100 billion won't be able to stop it. However, he gritted his teeth. Since you do it to the best of your ability. Just 100 billion. Episode 86. The final gains from the 2008 financial crisis. Crazy numbers. This is a double blessing. Land Rover is a brand worth winning. After hanging up the phone with Volt Vice President David, Cao Fengqi's eyes flickered slightly. In later generations, although the sales of Land Rover's low-end models were average, they were jokingly called 30% off Tigers. However, Land Rover's Range Rover ranks first in sales in the price range of more than 1.5 million. This is judged by sales volume around the world. In addition, the Land Rover Range Rover ranks 8th among million-dollar luxury cars, and the Land Rover Defender ranks 3rd in sales among million-dollar luxury cars. A luxury car recognized all over the world. The two brands Jaguar and Land Rover are all driven by Land Rover. This is why Jaguar Land Rover sold for $2.3 billion, and now just one Land Rover costs $1.6 billion. In the luxury SUV market, Land Rover has absolute dominance. What a surprise. He smiled and said that according to the development of the Land Rover brand, he would be able to make back his investment by 2011. Even with Cao Fengqi's intervention, the sales of the Land Rover brand may be able to reach a higher level. The low-end series of Land Rover in the previous generation did not take off and had a bad reputation. The main reason was that their quality control was too poor. Problems with electronic components often go wrong. There is a rumor circulating on the internet that when buying a Land Rover, you are either repairing the car or on the road to repairing the car. The failure rate is extremely high. Coupled with the rumors spread on the internet that Land Rover smelled like curry and was made in ASEAN, so it could be a good product. Of course, Cao Fengqi suspected that this issue was a business war. Because although Land Rover was acquired by the Tata Group, R&D, design, production and sales all belong to the original team of The Sun Never Sets. The Tata Group has no involvement in operations. But one thing is true, that is, Land Rover's failure rate is indeed extremely high. However, Cao Fengqi has a solution in this life. That is to let Porsche cars participate in the other party's quality control issues. Later, an authoritative organization investigated and released that Porsche's failure rate was the lowest among luxury brands, while Land Rover ranked first. The automobile empire that belongs to us and belongs to Caojia Village has been officially established. Cao Fengqi had a smile on his face. In the next period of time, Cao Fengqi learned about all of Porsche's technologies and businesses in detail. In the end, the two parties reached a formal agreement, signed a contract, and the deal was completed at a price of $11 billion. At the same time, Cao Fengqi used telephone communications to conduct negotiations with Volt Auto for half a month, and finally settled on a price of $1.5 billion. We also need to build a large-scale automobile factory in China and order machinery and equipment. During these times, Cao Fengqi was extremely busy. It is not only necessary to negotiate, but also to purchase advanced equipment. At present, Country D has the most top-notch automobile manufacturing chain, and many things must be purchased from them. Fortunately, there are people from the Porsche family to help. Even so, the cost of these equipment has reached more than $1 billion. Plus building factories in the country and so on. This price is not an exaggeration. When the domestic BMW company was established in 2010, the cost of building the factory also reached more than 10 billion Chinese yuan, and subsequent investments continued to reach nearly 100 billion yuan. Of course, Cao Fengqi has so many flowers, which mainly involves another issue, the issue of annual output. With this money spent, the factory's annual automobile output can reach 300,000 units. The scale of this factory is already very, very large. If not, it would not cost more than $1 billion just to purchase equipment. In this day and age, sky-high prices. Porsche costs $11 billion, Land Rover costs $1.5 billion, and Maybach costs $530 million. The completion of the factory construction will cost about $1.5 billion. In early August, Cao Fengqi calculated the money he would spend this time, adding up to $14.53 billion. According to today's exchange rate, 100 billion is enough. However, Cao Fengqi opened his financial accounts one by one, and when he saw the numbers above, a smile appeared on his face. It's time to finish. A smile filled his face. Okerbill covered all their funds, and he left the market yesterday, each making a profit of 2.52 times. And here he is. June, Lehman Brothers lost $2.8 billion in the second quarter, and Lehman replaced its president. July, Lehman Brothers to sell $40 billion in assets. In August, just now, Lehman Brothers suffered a huge loss of $3.9 billion in the third quarter, and its stock price plummeted. It's been less than a month since Lehman Brothers declared bankruptcy. The stock price of Lehman Brothers has also bottomed out. From a market value of more than $40 billion when he first entered the market, now only $6.3 billion are left, and more than $30 billion have been directly evaporated. Of course, Cao Fengqi's money was not only used to short Lehman Brothers. There are other banks, some of which use leverage. The end is over. Cao Fengqi had a smile on his face. This kind of money-making opportunity would be difficult to come across in the future. This time, he invested $4.9 billion, netting a net profit of $18.375 billion after excluding the principal. Among them, $900 million belongs to Lu Chenshan and others, and Cao Fengqi is not prepared to collect commissions from them. He still doesn't care about this little money. In other words, he earned exactly $15 billion. Well, it just so happens that all the money I earned was spent. Cao Fengqi looked at this data, a little surprised, and couldn't help but smile. Although all of it has been spent, he still has $4 billion in principal in his hands. There are also a few roosters that lay eggs. A happy ending. He stretched a bit and realized that it had been half a year since he came to the West. After giving the money to the Porsche family, I will get together with everyone in the circle and return home. Cao Fengqi looked at the date. He couldn't catch up with the opening ceremony of the Chinese Olympic Games. Let's see if he could catch up with the closing ceremony. The next day, he arrived at Nuyu on the Porsche family's private jet. In the airport where they were dating, when they got off the plane, they saw a fleet of luxurious Rolls-Royces parked beside them. Cao Feng raised his eyes and saw Steve, Bill Gates, and Oker. He raised his brows and smiled. This is the status that wealth brings in a capital country. A fleet of luxury cars drives directly to the airport. Similarly, this is also his current status. The world's richest man came to pick him up personally. This is? Wolf on the side looked at the people who greeted them, and was slightly shocked. Cao Fengqi smiled and patted his shoulder. Let's go, brother. Okay. The smile on Wolf's face was as bright as a chrysanthemum. Even though their family is among the top in the world, it is still an honor to be in the same circle as the world's richest man. Brother Cao, you are tired from the journey, why don't you take a rest first? The people in front also came forward and said with a smile. No, I came on Wolf's private plane, so I'm not tired at all. Cao Fengqi smiled and shook his head, let's find a place. Then go to one of my estates. Bill Gates said with a smile, the environment there is good and the privacy is very high. Cao Fengqi and the others naturally had no objection. Wolf and the others on the side got to know each other and said hello. They are both world-famous figures, and this is not the first time they have met. However, there is no interest or connection between the two parties. This time, there was a relationship because of Cao Fengqi. The convoy drove to a private large manor, and Cao Fengqi looked around. It is worthy of being the residence of the richest man, with a quiet and luxurious environment. The area is even ridiculously large. After everyone arrived, the servants immediately prepared sumptuous drinks, fruits, and snacks. Everyone said a few polite words and thanked him, then their eyes fell on Cao Fengqi. Cao Fengqi looked at them and said bluntly, my investment institution has been registered and established, called Everest. It currently accepts $5 billion in funds. The Porsche family has already invested $1 billion here. You will share the next $4 billion equally, or allocate it yourself? Of course, you don't have to collect $5 billion. You have to make this money as soon as possible. I am going to make the next investment. On my side, I can invest $800 million. Steve said. Sakdubin also said, I only have $600 million in cash here. Oker decided to invest $1 billion. He originally did not have so much cash. But last year and this year, following Cao Fengqi, he made $700 million. He asked his family for some enough to make up $1 billion. Bill Gates thought for a moment and said, I'll invest 10. Cao Fengqi smiled, okay, a total of $4.4 billion. Although it didn't reach $5 billion, he didn't care. He knew that he had not yet gained, at least not yet, the 100% trust of Bill Gates, the world's richest man. The other party was still worried that he would get away with the money. But it doesn't matter, after this investment, the other party will be convinced. Even when drinking, the other party has to lower the glass. This is his confidence in his next investment. Brother Cao, what do you want to invest in? Which company to invest in? Oker asked curiously. When Cao Fengqi heard his words, a strange smile appeared on his face. I am bearish on a company, so I am ready to buy down. However, I will keep it secret for now. If nothing happens, you will be able to receive a dividend early next year. He said with twinkling eyes, as for how much I can get, I'm not sure. The reason why he didn't tell the other party was because, what he wanted to short was Nokia. It is a company controlled by the Oker family. He wants to buy down. At the same time, Cao Fengqi is also planning to enter the mobile phone industry. While Nokia is still the world's mobile phone overlord, while the overlord's influence has not yet faded, and while Apple has not completely taken off. As for shorting Nokia, he doesn't need to do anything at all. Because he clearly remembers that Nokia's current market value is hundreds of billions of dollars. But in just a few months, from January to March 2009, its market value fell to 30 to 40 billion. There is no problem in more than doubling the $4.4 billion in Cao Fengqi's hands. Of course, he will not give all of the final profit to the other party this time, but will take half of it himself. I should split it 50 to 50. Can we get dividends so soon? When everyone heard what he said, their faces lit up with joy. Now, they no longer doubt Cao Fengqi's strength. Almost, I can't guarantee 100%, huh? Cao Fengqi smiled, but his expression was confident. We believe Brother Cao. Bill Gates also smiled, walked to the cabinet beside him, took out a bottle of red wine, and showed it with a smile, a bottle of Romanée-Conti from 1945. I asked someone to buy it at the auction. I have been keeping it. This year everyone celebrate Everest's investment, and celebrate our acquaintance. TSK, you are indeed the richest man. Oker's eyes lit up when he saw it. This bottle costs more than $300,000 at auction. Money is not important, the most important thing is that it is rare and difficult to buy. Bill Gates said with a smile. Cao Fengqi heard, okay, so pretentious, right? A bottle of wine cost more than 2 million Chinese coins. Hey, it seems like it's only 2 million Chinese coins. It's not like we can't afford to drink. Episode 87. An incident that shocked Cao Fengqi and the Guo family entered the abyss. A gathering within the circle ended quickly. Cao Fengqi also took away a few bottles of red wine from Bill Gates. Of course, it was also given to him by the other party, so he was not polite. Sometimes, giving and receiving gifts is a way to increase friendship. If you don't accept it, it might not be a good thing. The 1869 from Chateau Lafite and the 1947 from Chateau Cheval Blanc are both top-notch red wines in auction houses, and both are precious wines worth more than 1.5 million. As for wine, Cao Fengqi doesn't like drinking liquor very much because it is too strong. Even now, Caojia Village wine is already the best wine in China. Maybe Cao Fengqi is not yet old enough to drink liquor. The older people are, the more they like liquor. It would be nice to buy some red wine and drink it. In the next 2 days, Cao Fengqi invested the $4.4 billion from Everest and began to enter the market one by one, buying and selling Nokia. It's almost done, you can go back. Cao Fengqi sat in front of the computer, looking at the current financial market situation, and thought to himself. It is now August 20th. After returning, there are still many things to do, especially the construction of automobile factories. If you want to build a huge factory, even with full power in China's infrastructure construction speed, it will take half a year to complete. We also need to find a CEO for the automobile group to take full charge of management. Cao Fengqi thought in his mind that the company must be managed by someone. A good manager can lead the company to become better and better. Nowadays in China, who should we look for as CEO? Who is qualified to be the CEO? He does not have time to be this manager himself, so he must find a strong leader. Thinking in his heart, he felt a little helpless. After returning to China, he was busy with some things. Buzz. Just when he was about to charter a plane to return home, a phone call suddenly opened. When he saw the caller's name, he was filled with surprise. Why is this guy calling himself? Cao Feng raised his eyebrows and answered the phone. Mr. Cao. On the other side of the phone, Mr. Zhu's voice came. And this Mr. Zhu is the head of Lehman Brothers Shangjiang office. Mr. Zhu, what's the matter? Cao Fengqi said straight to the point. He didn't treat the other party politely. Speaking of which, last year, he even helped Mr. Zhu a big favor. Mr. Cao, I have a building here. I wonder if you want to buy it. Mr. Zhu's voice was a little low, obviously his throat was suppressed. It sounds a little sneaky. It doesn't look like he's doing anything good. Mr. Zhu, if you have anything to say, just say it. Cao Fengqi continued to ask doubtfully. At the same time, in the office on the top floor of the Lehman Brothers Investment Bank in Hong Kong, Xu Huan swallowed and organized his words. Mr. Cao, here in our Lehman Brothers Shangjiang office, there is a Guo family building. Its current market value is no less than 12 billion. I want to sell it to you. When Cao Fengqi heard what he said, he was slightly startled, feeling that this guy was up to no good. But, the Guo family's building? Guo Huaixiong and others? Mr. Zhu, don't worry, Guo Huaixiong and I have a lot of grievances. Cao Fengqi narrowed his eyes slightly and said. This year, although he has always been with Country M. But Sister Yuya also came to him several times, firstly for the expansion of the new store, and secondly to report some situations to him. However, among the newly opened stores across the country, only the sales volume of the store there is low, not even half of that of other places. This is obviously not normal. Sister Yuya told him that there were some small media and some people in Shangjiang who smeared their origins from Fengtian Group, which made their brand reputation difficult to improve and had a considerable impact on their sales. But according to the company's investigation, the person behind it was not found. Sister Yuya guessed that it might be malicious competition among peers. But Cao Fengqi had some guesses. He knew very well that Guo Huaixiong's family were all people who would be punished for their crimes. Now the person in charge of Lehman Brothers Hong Kong, which is about to declare bankruptcy, suddenly said these words, this is. Mr. Cao, you should be very aware of the current situation of our Lehman Brothers. Xu Heng gritted his teeth and stopped beating around the bush. Now I am going to sell the Guo family building to you, Mr. Cao, at a low price. How come the Guo family's building is in your hands? Cao Fengqi showed a trace of curiosity and expectation. In addition, I am a little curious, how much money does the Guo family have in your bank now? Mr. Cao, to tell you the truth, 1.9 billion of the money of the Guo family's companies is in our company. Xu Heng replied, in addition, Guo Huaixiong used a building as a mortgage loan to purchase a piece of land with us 2 months ago, but we had some problems with bank funds at that time, so I introduced him to other banks, but the building they mortgaged is currently under our umbrella. We want to sell to you. Why is the other party's building under your ownership? Cao Fengqi was a little confused. He didn't get the money from you? This. Mr. Cao, you don't need to ask. Our procedures are complete and we guarantee that there will be no disputes after your purchase. Xu Heng continued, but after you buy it, I'm afraid you will offend the Guo family, but we are willing to sell it to you at less than 30% off the market price. Cao Fengqi finally understood what he said. Awesome, really awesome. Last year, Cao Fengqi set the stage for Guo Huaixiong, hoping that after the collapse of Lehman Brothers, all their money would be lost. Obviously, the Guo family's money, as well as the money in his company, is going to be gone. It's not just that. Now Mr. Zhu is even more ruthless. Mr. Zhu obviously knew some inside information and knew that Lehman Brothers was going to be doomed. So I don't know what means he used to mortgage a building owned by Guo Huaixiong into his own hands. In other words, he now has the housing certificate and other documents of this building, and now he wants to sell it at a low price. After selling it to him, Lehman Brothers collapsed. This is equivalent to the Guo family building disappearing. But if I buy this building, will the money borrowed by the Guo family still have to be repaid? Cao Fengqi narrowed his eyes slightly and asked this question. Yes, I want to pay it back to the Guo family. Zhu Hong nodded, hesitated, and uttered a few more words. It will be over, it will go bankrupt. Mr. Zhu, you are so cruel. When Cao Fengqi heard this, he couldn't help but comment, but he showed a smile. But I like it. Ha, Mr. Cao, as long as you like it, do you want to buy it? When Zhu Hong heard his words, he also showed a trace of expectation and a trace of awe. For example, last year, Mr. Cao suddenly found him and suddenly brought him such great achievements and benefits. He didn't understand the reason. He understands everything now. Mr. Cao must have a detailed understanding of Lehman Brothers, and he must know that they are likely to be hit by thunderstorms and may go bankrupt. Otherwise, he would not have reconciled with the Guo family so easily. Otherwise, Guo Huaixiong and the others would not be allowed to get on their train. The other party definitely had a premeditated plan. When it comes to ruthlessness, Zhu Hong thinks that he is far inferior to this young man from the mainland. The other party has already planned and sent the Guo family into the abyss. He just made a small operation. When he learned that the big ship Lehman Brothers was about to sink, he was also making preparations for his future. An unexpected opportunity led him to target the Guo family and carry out some operations. In other words, 7 to 8 billion to buy the Guo family's building? Cao Fengqi narrowed his eyes slightly and asked. 7.5 billion will do, but I hope Mr. Cao can transfer 500 million to our overseas account, and also settle the cash on the same day. Mr. Zhu had nothing to hide at this time and said directly. Mr. Zhu, for 5 billion, I can give you 1 billion in cash, for 4 billion, I can give you 1.5 billion. Cao Fengqi's eyes flickered. How about it? Lehman Brothers is going to fail anyway, so we might as well make more money. This Mr. Zhu obviously wanted to make a fortune before Lehman Brothers collapsed. In addition, he also guessed that the reason why Mr. Zhu came to him. The main reason is that Guo Huaixiong is very powerful in Xiangzhong. If he sells to other families may tell the Guo family. If he sells to some foreign companies, the news may also leak out. After all, not many people can come up with so much cash in a short period of time. Once the Guo family knew that he had done this, they would definitely kill him. There was no doubt that they would do anything to kill him. And he knew that Cao Fengqi had a grudge against the Guo family, so he would never leak the information. He didn't dare to find other buyers or gamble. After all, his life was at stake. The only and best buyer is yourself. So now, Cao Fengqi gave more money. Of course, this money is for Zhu Hong personally. Mr. Cao, is this true? Zhu Hong took a deep breath and said. Of course, if you dare to go lower, I can provide you with personal protection. Cao Fengqi said with a smile. Forget it, I have to give a portion to the company, otherwise the company will. Zhu Hong was a little tempted, but he still gave up his greed. There shouldn't be much problem if I sell 4 billion to you, Mr. Cao. Good. Cao Fengqi also had a smile on his face. Just in time, I will fly directly to Xiangzhong tomorrow. Zhu Hong didn't even talk about it. Obviously time was tight, so he didn't waste any time. This is just to give yourself money. Okay Mr. Cao, the sooner the better, I will prepare everything here. Zhu Hong said immediately. Cao Fengqi laughed, and he hung up Zhu Heng's call directly, with an excited look on his face. He never thought that the game set up last year was just to cause Guo Huaixiong and the others to suffer heavy losses, but he did not expect that there would be unexpected results. He. Cao Fengqi couldn't help laughing, and immediately took out his mobile phone and dialed Fong Wenming's number. Boss, what's going on? Fong Wenming asked immediately after answering the phone. Cao Fengqi told him everything about it, and said in addition, Wenming, please inform everyone in Shenzhen to go to Xiangzhong to prepare to accept this great gift. Damn it, boss, is there such a good thing? Although Fong Wenming did not go to what happened between Cao Fengqi and the Guo family in Xiangzhong, he understood clearly afterwards. Now that I heard the news, I was a little stunned. Yes, I was very surprised too. Cao Fengqi smiled and added, an unexpected surprise. This time he took over the Guo family's building, not in his own name. This kind of thing is so cruel, it is equivalent to destroying the entire Guo family. Guo Huaixiong may jump over the wall in a hurry, and may very well fight back before his death. Therefore, he asked everyone in his circle to take over this building. This makes this building belong to the First Mansion Group. With the power within their circle, how dare the other party jump over the wall? Baring your teeth can blow your head off. After this incident, Guo Huaixiong and his family will completely withdraw from the stage in Hong Kong. Really falling into the abyss. Episode 88. The dividends within the circle shocked everyone in Luchenshan. The entire rich list? On August 21st, a plane landed at Shangjiang International Airport. Cao Fengqi flew straight here and set foot on this land again, with a smile on his face. When I came here last year, I gained a lot, and this time, it is the same. This is Cao Fengqi's blessed land. Boss. Boss. When Cao Fengqi came to the exit, he saw luxury cars parked on the roadside. When Lu Qinshan, Zhao Xian and others saw him arriving, their faces showed excitement, even a hint of fanaticism. They knew that this time, they could make a fortune. Damn it, boss, you are too fierce, you can really bring down the Guo family. Boss, how did you do it? Is Mr. Zhu from Lehman Brothers yours? As soon as they got closer, everyone in Lu Qinshan, who had already received the news, asked one by one. Last year, when Cao Fengqi called Mr. Zhu over, they felt a little strange, feeling that the boss was setting up a big game. Now it seems that this is simply God. This time it was beyond my expectation. I originally thought that Lehman Brothers would only swallow up the Guo family's assets, but I didn't expect that they would play more ruthlessly. Cao Fengqi said with a smile. No, boss, why did Mr. Zhu do this? If their bank does this kind of thing, its reputation will be greatly damaged. Who will dare to do business with them in the future? Hu Tianfeng and the others asked one by one with doubts. Well, because Lehman Brothers is going to collapse, why do they care about this? Cao Fengqi patted them on the shoulders. If you have nothing to do, pay more attention to some practical international financial affairs. Isn't it? This is the fourth largest investment bank in M, this. They were all studying in country M. Naturally, they knew about Lehman Brothers. They were shocked, but they quickly thought, financial crisis? Boss, you have long predicted that Lehman Brothers might be hit by a thunderstorm, so you tied Guo Huaixiong and the others to the thunderstorm. Man's car? Well, I already paid attention to it when we were still studying abroad. Cao Feng nodded. This sentence sounded very pretentious. Several people heard it and opened their mouths slightly. What else can be said? The eldest child has been paying attention to this kind of thing since he was in school. They were still in Makabaka when they were in school. Why are there so many cars? Cao Fengqi saw the convoy around him, including more than a dozen cars, and asked curiously. We brought 30 bodyguards here. The corner of Lu Qinshan's mouth raised slightly, and he said with excitement, I heard from Brother Wenming that our Fengqi Fengtian group is not doing well in sales in Shangjiang. It is suspected that someone is behind our back. We guess it must have something to do with the Guo family. Let's get close to each other once and see if we can fight. Cao Feng Riss? Let's go to Mr. Zhu's place. Did you bring the lawyer? He shook his head speechlessly and asked. We brought the team from the mainland and the Shangjiang lawyer team that Uncle Hong found, all of which are top-notch. Chen Long said. Cao Feng nodded. Although Mr. Zhu did not dare to lie to themselves, they still had to be fully prepared. In case. A group of people took a car and walked towards a 5-star hotel. This time the transaction was not even with Lehman Brothers. When he saw Mr. Zhu, a smile appeared on his face. Mr. Cao, hello. Xu Hong saw them and walked over quickly, greeting them respectfully. Cao Fengqi shook hands with him and said bluntly, Mr. Zhu, how are you preparing here? Xu Hong smiled and picked up the bag beside him and took out documents and certificates one after another. Cao Fengqi took it and handed it to the legal team on the side. After checking them one by one, they nodded to Cao Feng, Mr. Cao, all the procedures and documents are fine. Good. Cao Fengqi smiled and looked at Mr. Zhu, give me your account and the money will be in your account immediately. Okay. Xu Hong was also full of excitement and immediately gave him 5 accounts, 4 of which were his private overseas accounts. It seems that Mr. Zhu is very cautious and has opened 4 overseas private accounts. Within a few minutes, Mr. Zhu received the funds and clenched his fists tightly with excitement in his eyes. Mr. Cao, it's a pleasure to work with you. Xu Hong smiled excitedly and stretched out his hand, and then said, I bought a plane to go abroad and will leave in the afternoon. Please also ask Mr. Cao not to announce the news today. Don't worry, we will collect our building tomorrow. Cao Fengqi smiled and nodded. Thank you. Mr. Zhu bowed and ran away quickly. How does Mr. Zhu operate? He can do such tricks. He must be very powerful. Seeing Mr. Zhu leaving, Zhao Xian couldn't help but curiously asked, is this considered a fraud? It doesn't matter what the operation is, as long as our procedures comply with the regulations. Qianlong's face was full of excitement. He looked at the lawyer on the side. What is the current market value of the Guo family building? Due to the impact of the financial crisis, the market value of this building has dropped by 20% this year. A lawyer next to him immediately reported, Mr. Chen, the current market value of the building is 1.2 billion. In other words, we made 6.5 billion in one fell swoop? Lu Chunshan and the others were also full of excitement. They made so much without doing anything? Even if it is divided equally among everyone, one person would still have 650 million. How is this different from picking up money? Are you so happy with this little money? Cao Fengqi looked at them and said with a smile. Boss, is this still small money? This is 650 million, which can make us worry-free for a lifetime. Everyone looked at him speechlessly. 650 million, what a concept. Find a place to have a meal to celebrate, and besides. Cao Fengqi looked at them with a smile, 650 million is so happy? He continued, I have one more thing to say. Everyone heard this, with curious expressions on their faces. Half an hour later, they arrived at a private club. Boss, what's the matter? Several people looked at him curiously and couldn't help asking. Cao Fengqi looked at them and said with a smile, the money you each invested in the 100 million US dollars at the beginning of this year is in my hands, so I won't share it with you. I will transfer the money I made this time to you in the past 2 days. When they were studying abroad, Zhao Xian and others gave him money to invest, and he took 50% of the money. But now, he is not ready to share it. Because he no longer cares about the other party's money. Their relationship has evolved from cooperation at the beginning to the brotherhood it is today. Between brothers, we will not share with them, but just help them make money. The 900 million US dollars that the 9 of you put together, now, excluding the principal, would be worth 23.625 billion in Chinese currency. His voice continued, the personal dividend is 2.625 billion. Of course, there is one thing. The building just purchased belongs to the first prefecture company, so the money will be deducted from you. Wow! As soon as he finished speaking, the cup in Zhao Xinxin's hand fell directly to the ground, with a look of shock and disbelief on his face. Lu Chunshan and the others looked at him with their mouths slightly open. I didn't know what to say for a while. F***K, F***K, F***K. Oh my god, boss, no, you love me more than my father. This, more than 2.6 billion per person? More than 2.6 billion per person, not counting the 700 million principal? Hiss, boss, have you robbed the Wall Street giants? From today on, Cao Feng, our relationship as brothers is severed. Father, please accept my respects. It took more than 10 seconds for everyone to react, and they roared in shock. Even those with deep family backgrounds like Qianlong, Lu Chunshan, and Hu Tianfeng were confused. Just now, they made 6.5 billion through the Guo family's building, and each of them could get more than 600 million. They were all very excited and happy. It already feels incredible. Now. No wonder the boss said, this is just small money. They really want to sever the brotherhood with Cao Fengqi now. In this short period of time, the two funds combined led each of them to earn more than 3 billion. Each of them now has more than 3 billion in cash. Today's richest people in the country, except for the boss, the capital city, which ranks second with more than 20 billion in assets, cannot afford more than 3 billion in cash. Let's just say that now the money in their hands, their families are not as rich as they are. Boss, can I ask you, how much have you earned? Zhao Xian looked at Cao Fengqi with burning eyes and asked. 4 head. Cao Fengqi thought of the money he earned and shrugged, the money I earned has been spent. All spent? Everyone looked at him doubtfully. Cao Feng nodded, feeling a little better at the moment, and said slightly pretentiously, I bought 3 luxury cars, a Maybach, a Land Rover and a Porsche. Zhao Xian and the others? Bought 3 luxury cars? Good guy, good guy. They don't simply think that the boss just bought a car, it's obviously the entire car company. Maybach, Land Rover, Porsche. Zhang Feng took a deep breath and looked at him with wide eyes, boss, not to mention the 2 cars Maybach and Land Rover, Porsche. I knew when I was in school that they are the top in the world. Boss, how much did you spend? Money? Not much, just over 100 billion. Cao Fengqi couldn't help but smile. Then Lu Chunshan, Qianlong and others fell silent. More than 100 billion. In other words, the boss made more than 100 billion this time. Adding in their more than 20 billion, they earn 123 to 120 billion a year? Just in the financial market. When the financial crisis breaks out, it will be difficult to make money like this in the future. Cao Fengqi looked at their shocked expressions and continued with a smile. What else can we say? Boss, when you eat from now on, the younger brothers will stand and turn the plate for you and pick up the dishes for you. Zhao Xian looked at him and said seriously. Cao Fengqi looked at him speechlessly. Do you want you to lie on it? Boss, if you are interested in this, it's not impossible. Zhao Xian nodded with a smile. Go away. He laughed and cursed. After following the boss for a few years, we are now worth enough to be in the top 50 on the rich list. Yang Shanxuan said with a sigh on his face. The others thought about it and nodded slightly. At the beginning of the year, they paid attention to the rankings on the rich list. The person ranked 50th had assets of only 5 billion. The 9 of them now earn more than 6 billion just by following Cao Fengqi, plus their assets. Simply outrageous. How lucky they are. Boss, you directly purchased 3 of the world's top car brands for 100 billion renminbi. Does Brother Wen Ming know this? Lu Chunshan looked at him and asked. I haven't told him yet. Well, I have to tell him that I want to build a large automobile factory and I need a lot of land. Let him find a place. Cao Fengqi smiled and said. The better Caojia Village develops, the better the future of the other civilization will be. Nowadays, when China knows that he spent hundreds of billions to buy a Maybach Land Rover Porsche and obtained the top technology in the automotive industry, then China will boil. This is historic. In 2008, it was unimaginable for an individual to spend 100 billion to obtain top-notch automotive industry technology. Episode 89. Anyone who joins the game dies. Everyone in the Guo family collapses. The family collapses. Everyone celebrated excitedly all night. Because there were still important things to do tomorrow, Cao Fengqi did not let everyone drink too much. Early the next morning, a group of people rushed towards Tongluan in high spirits. This building of the Guo family is located in a prime location in Tongluo Bay. Otherwise, a building would not be worth 12 billion. I'll call the Qian family first to inform them. Cao Fengqi looked at Chen Long and the others beside him, and continued with a smile. You called Guo Huaixiong and the others and asked them to come over for handover. Okay boss, no problem. Chen Long smiled and nodded. Should we make some compensation to the Qian family? After all, they can be considered friends. Let's see, maybe the Qian family can acquire some shares of Hope Pharmaceutical Group at a low price. Cao Fengqi thought for a while. If they can acquire it, then we will not compensate them. Otherwise, we will compensate them somewhat. This time, Guo Huaixiong's loss was not just as simple as one of their buildings. All the liquidity of their company and personal assets are placed in Lehman Brothers Bank. In other words, with Mr. Zhu running away, all of their 1.9 billion working capital will not be available. Of course, if Lehman Brothers goes bankrupt, their properties will be auctioned to pay off debts. But, the investors in Country M don't have enough money to pay back, so will they pay you back? Is it possible? Therefore, this time it is also a huge loss for Hope Pharmaceutical Group. All liquidity disappeared. This will naturally be a loss for the Qian family. Of course, because the Qian family only held more than 10% of the shares, the losses were not very large. There are tens of millions. The last time the Qian family entertained them so kindly, they were not heartless people. Nowadays, Chen Long and the others are not short of money. If one of them spends less than tens of millions, they can compensate for the losses of the other party. As a human being, you still need to be loyal. Cao Fengqi dialed Chen Zhijiang's phone number and invited him to come over. As for Chen Long and others on the side, they have already notified Guo Huaixiong and his family. Half an hour later, they arrived at the bottom of the Guangwei building. Looking at the relatively new building ahead, smiles appeared on everyone's faces. If there hadn't been a financial crisis this year, this building would be worth about 15 billion. Lu Chunshan looked at it and asked slightly excitedly, Boss, do we want to sell this building? Whatever you want. Cao Fengqi said nonchalantly, if you keep it, it should be no problem if the value more than doubles in the future, but it will definitely not rise as high as in the mainland. You can also sell it and invest the funds in the mainland. Okay, then let's see if we can find a buyer. If we don't sell it, we can use it for mortgage loans in the future. Chen Long said. Cao Fengqi doesn't care. He has little interest in real estate. The first mansion company only controls the general direction and gives them some suggestions. When everyone was smiling and discussing how to deal with it in front of the building, soon, familiar figures arrived one after another. Cao Feng looked up and raised the corners of his mouth slightly. This time, not only Guo Huaixiong came, but also Guo Xiaohua and his father. In addition, Wu Jingying and his son also came with them, as well as a wealthy businessman who was invited by Guo Huaixiong and is now ranked among the top 10 families in Shangjiang. Just now, he received a call from Chen Long, asking them to come over. His words were full of command. Guo Huaixiong didn't know what kind of medicine they were selling in the gourd, but after much thought he rushed over. Because he knew he couldn't escape, he invited the Zhou family's talker, who is now their new project partner. At this time, Guo Huaixiong and the others also noticed that Cao Fengqi and others looked at each other with gloomy eyes. Ha, is the dog's leg healed? Chen Long watched them coming, his eyes fell on Guo Xiaohua, and asked sarcastically. You? Guo Xiaohua looked at them, his eyes full of anger. Guo Huaixiong on the side immediately waved his hand to his grandson, and looked at Cao Fengqi and the others with gloomy eyes. I wonder what the young masters are calling us for? It's not because they want to use their power to overwhelm others. Commercial matters will naturally be resolved by commercial means. Cao Fengqi looked at Guo Huaixiong and said calmly, our Fengqi Fengtian group is being smeared here, is it you who did it? Ha, Mr. Cao. Hearing his words, Guo Huaixiong couldn't help laughing, and repeated his words with some irony, business matters should be solved by commercial means. Do you understand the meaning of this sentence? He neither refused nor admitted. But the meaning of what he repeated is very obvious. Even if it is to discredit it, it is still a commercial method. As for whether this method is indiscriminate? Isn't this a normal business practice? Guo Hao on the side looked at the bodyguards around them and added with a sneer, what? Everyone, with so many people, are you planning to beat us up? No, how could we bring so many people here just to beat them? Lu Chenshan looked at them jokingly and said with a smile, we brought people here to protect ourselves, huh? Ha? A trace of doubt flashed in Guo Huaixiong's eyes. Cao Fengqi was not going to chat with them, so he took out a piece of information and walked to Guo Huaixiong. He handed it to him with a smile. The main reason for calling the Guo family here today is to hand over the Guangwei building. Ha? What are you talking about? Guo Hao stared at him with wide eyes and his voice was high. Hand over their glorious building? Are you kidding me? Guangwei building belongs to their Guo family's assets, and it is also the most important asset. They have not sold it. Cao Fengqi shrugged and gestured to the document. Guo Huaixiong's eyes narrowed and he immediately took the document and started reading it. When he saw the contents inside and saw the transaction contract between Lehman Brothers and Cao Fengqi, his expression changed slightly. After seeing the name even on the property certificate of Guangwei building, I was a little confused, and for a while I felt that my head was not congested enough. Damn it, this can't be possible, these can't be real. Guo Huaixiong shouted firmly in disbelief, immediately took out his mobile phone and dialed Zhu Heng's number. Guo Hao next to him was stunned when he saw his father's expression change, and quickly took the document. Do. When Guo Huaixiong dialed Zhu Heng's number, he had already run away. How could he get through? He called twice without giving up, but still couldn't get through. Stop it, Mr. Zhu has run away. You can try calling Lehman Brothers' official phone number to see if anyone is still working there. Cao Fengqi reminded him kindly. This sentence made it difficult for Guo Huaixiong to breathe. He quickly dialed the number of Lehman Brothers Bank. He looked at him with red eyes. Do you know something? Cao Feng looked at it with a smile and did not answer. Soon, Guo Huaixiong discovered that the phone number inside Lehman Brothers Bank could not be dialed. They are in a bank, but they have one-to-one service staff, but they all can't get through. He couldn't believe it and frantically dialed one number after another. The documents are genuine and the procedures are formal. Chen Long and others on the side looked at the Guo family with a sneer. Now, let's carry out the handover. From today on, this glorious building belongs to us. Impossible. This Guangwei building belongs to our Guo family. What on earth have you despicable guys done? Guo Xiaohua stared at them with anger and shouted. Cao Fengqi and the others completely ignored him and just looked at them calmly. Watching Guo Huaixiong keep calling to inquire, watching his face getting paler and paler, his face getting more and more ugly. Fengqi, I don't know what happened when you called me here. At this moment, Qian Jijian also rushed over. He looked at this scene and the people around him, his face full of surprise. What are you doing? Uncle Qian. When Cao Fengqi saw him, he greeted with a smile. I call Uncle Qian to come here, mainly to say sorry to you. Uncle Qian, you own shares of Hope Pharmaceutical Group, but something may happen to Hope Pharmaceutical Company next. Something happened. What happened? Qian Jijian stepped forward and looked at him in shock. Lehman Brothers may be going under. Cao Fengqi smiled. So, I'm afraid, it will be difficult to get back the funds that Hope Pharmaceuticals has. Is Lehman Brothers going to fail? Qian Jijian was completely confused when he heard this. The next second, he quickly thought of something, and immediately looked at the Guo family on the side. He hopes that the shares he owns in Hope Pharmaceutical Group are not very large, but more owned by the Guo family and Wu Jingying. Although the company's working capital has been lost, his family only accounts for more than 10%, so they can afford this loss. Guo Huaixiong and Wu Jingying won the majority. No, this is impossible? How could such a big bank collapse? This is impossible. Wu Jingying next to him was also shocked when he heard this sentence. They hope that the pharmaceutical industry's liquidity in its bank has reached 1 billion. If it is really gone, his loss will be huge. He stared at Guo Huaixiong and the others with wide eyes, but everyone's losses were nothing in front of the Guo family. The Guo family is not just the Hope Pharmaceutical Group, but all the working capital of their real estate company is in it. Also, what's going on with Guangwei Building? The Guangwei Building belongs to me, Guo Huaixiong, who has worked hard for decades. Guo Huaixiong collapsed at this moment, and he shouted loudly and spitted out his saliva, looking extremely excited. At this time, he was already aware of the horror. Realized that if Lehman Brothers really went bankrupt, Ruonaju would sell the Guangwei Building to them. Then their Guo family would be completely ruined. More than 20 billion in assets collapsed overnight. If the capital chain is broken, those banks will not let them go. They will immediately pounce on them and freeze their assets to pay off their debts. Grandpa, what's going on now? What's going on? Guo Xiaohua asked in a panic when he saw his grandfather's expression and didn't understand it yet. Let me answer for your grandpa. Chen Long looked at him with a smile and said slowly, because Lehman Brothers Bank went bankrupt, so all the funds you put with them were gone. Not only that, but for some unknown reason, your Guangwei building was mortgaged at Lehman Brothers, so Mr. Zhu sold the building to us yesterday. Well, the result is that Guangwei building belongs to us, and the loan you used as collateral for Guangwei building needs to be repaid to another bank, and you have nothing. Lu Chenshan shook his head at the side and added with a smile, Brother Long, they are not completely finished. They hope that the shares of the pharmaceutical group can still be sold to pay off the debt, but they just don't know if it will be enough. The Guo family's main assets are real estate, and there are no real estate companies that are debt-free. But the Guo family's debt ratio is not high. With the support of Guangwei Building, they can withstand even if they encounter a crisis. But now. When Guo Xiaohua heard what they said, he looked a little dazed and couldn't accept this fact at all. You are so cruel, you are so cruel. Guo Huaixiong pointed at Cao Fengqi and the others with rapid breathing, with eyes like ferocious beasts. Did you already know that Lehman Brothers might go bankrupt? Didn't you? You deliberately lured us. You. He said with excitement on his face, but passed out without taking a breath. Cao Fengqi raised his eyebrows when he saw it. Why did he faint? It's good to be old, just fall asleep on the ground. When he first arrived, he was still taunting him with a smile. Now, he just fell asleep and obviously didn't like to smile anymore. You have made us lose everything by stepping on the horse. I will fight with you, and I will fight for you. Guahao also broke down and shouted loudly, rushing towards Cao Fengqi and the others with red eyes. Bump! The two bodyguards on the side easily brought him down. Well, bringing so many bodyguards is indeed for self-protection. Guo Xiaohua stood there trembling, not knowing what to do, his eyes were dull. Like a fool, the six gods have no master. Episode 90. Stirs up the storm and shakes the whole city. Hiss. At the entrance of Guangwei Building, Chen Zhijian watched all this and couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. He glanced at Cao Fengqi, and a hint of fear flashed in his eyes. Yes, fear. If we say that his ruthless operation last year, he dared to throw more than 2 billion to Guo Huaixiong and others for more than 10 billion, it is awe-inspiring. Now, I am completely afraid. This method is too powerful. He actually predicted in advance or knew that Lehman Brothers would go bankrupt, so he tied the Guo family to Lehman Brothers. This year, Mr. Zhu used some unknown means to bring the Guangwei building to their place. Now it is sold directly. After the sale, the entire Lehman Brothers will be finished. Do you want money? How do I want it? When can I get it? Nowhere in sight. Chen Zhijian was very suspicious that Mr. Zhu's operation was secretly arranged by Cao Fengqi. Otherwise, how could it be such a coincidence? This series of tactics caused the Guo family, a wealthy businessman with assets of 20 to 30 billion, to go bankrupt. Rich families like the Guo family are all asset heavy, and it is basically impossible to bankrupt them. But he did it. This. Zhou Wenju, who followed from the side, was also a little stunned. Guo Huaixiong and the others are going to be finished? He was called over by Guo Huaixiong, and this was the result? Although he didn't know the specific reason, it was obvious that the Guo family was done. What about the land they jointly developed with the Guo family? Wu Jingying looked at Guo Huaixiong, who had fainted. Looking at all this, his face was full of bitterness and fear. This time, he also suffered a heavy loss. All because he was standing here with Guo Huaixiong. Everything is because of the Guo family. But how could he have thought that the Guo family would collapse? He glanced at the young man in fear. Now, even if he had to lose hundreds of millions, he didn't dare to fart. Now he just wants the other party to treat him as a transparent person and treat him like a fart. He swore that he would never mess with this group of people if he ever saw him taking the initiative to be his grandson. His eyes glanced at Guo Xiaohua, who was standing aside. It was all because of this playboy. Wu Jingying sighed and dialed the ambulance number. Mr. Cao, you are so amazing. Chen Zhijiang came back to his senses, looked at Cao Fengqi and said, you actually brought Guo Huaixiong and the others to such an extent. It's mostly just luck. Cao Fengqi shook his head, who knew that Mr. Zhu from Lehman Brothers was so ruthless that he dug a deep hole for the other party. Yes. Chen Zhijiang smiled and nodded quickly. Cao Fengqi knew from the look on his face that he had misunderstood. Mr. Zhu's side was really not arranged by him. But he didn't say anything, just let the other person think so. Even if Guo Huaixiong and the others think so what? Anyway, the two sides have deep grievances. They started the Fengtian group, and they themselves are responsible for it. Strength is king. Without strength, this is the end. After the Guo family is solved, the business of the luxury goods group will no longer be affected in the future. In addition, you can also kill chickens to scare monkeys. Tell all the wealthy businessmen here not to fight us. Uncle Qian, I'm really sorry. We can compensate you for your loss this time. Cao Fengqi looked at him and said with a smile. No, it's just a little money. When Shen Zhijiang heard this, he waved his hand quickly. Suddenly he felt that the young man in front of him was still very talkative. Why do you think Guo Huaixiong is annoying others? He looked at Zhou Wenju on the side and said immediately, Brother Zhou, how about our Qian family take over the cooperation project between the Guo family and you? Zhou Wenju heard this. After hesitating for a few seconds, he also smiled, no problem, of course no problem. Brother Qian, you should know something about our project, but we can make a lot of money. Yes. Xian Zhijiang nodded, smiled at Cao Fengqi again and said, Fengqi, I have made a big mistake now. Do you want to join in? This investment by brothers Guo Huaixiong and Zhou Wenju, a handful of them are 10 hundreds of millions of profits. No, that will just make up for your losses, Uncle Chen. Cao Fengqi shook his head and said with a smile. There is no problem for the Qian family to take over this project from the Guo family. Even the Guo family did not dare to say anything and could only nod in agreement. After all, this time it was because of themselves that the Qian family lost tens of millions. In addition, the Guo family has no choice. This time our Qian family picked a peach with nothing. Xian Zhijiang said happily, then today, if you want me to host a banquet for you all, Brother Zhou can also come with you. Okay, no problem. It's an honor for me, Mr. Zhou, to meet all of you gentlemen. Zhou Wenju finally understood the situation. Coupled with what he knew about Guo Xiaohua's leg being broken last year, he understood the whole story. The young man in front of him is someone everyone in the Qian family wants to please. He would naturally want to please the existence that could please the top 3 families in Shangjiang. Start licking. Yes, but we need to solve the matter here first. No problem, I'll help Fengqi take over the property management here. In addition, our Qian family has a property company that can help take over the property here and help manage it. Okay, thank you, Uncle Qian. The management expenses will be whatever they are. Just deduct them from the rent. My brothers will settle the accounts. What happens next is simple. Cao Fengqi and the others own all the property rights of Guangyue building, and with the help of the local gangster Qian family, the ceremony to take over is very simple. However, this building is a commercial building, and the lease time of some tenants has not expired. Cao Fengqi didn't care about this. They didn't need to change the way the building was run. It was enough to maintain the current situation. It only took a few hours and everything was done. In the afternoon, Cao Fengqi and the others came to the private club again. Xianjiang is not very big, but the equestrian sports here are indeed much better than those in the mainland. Therefore, they took the initiative to choose this place for entertainment. In the afternoon, Uncle Hong and his daughter Hong Fengyan also rushed over. When they learned about the current situation of the Guo family, they were shocked for a long time. In the evening, the Qian family held a private family dinner and invited them there. Qian Zhijiang's father and other members of the Qian family were all present. Cao Fengqi and the others also met the influential figure of the Qian family, Qiantang Shui. This person who has experienced the prosperity of the times. The old man who led the Qian family to become a billionaire family. The waves behind the Yangtze River push the waves ahead. In just a few years, little brother Fengqi has become the richest man in China. You are so powerful. Even Li Chaoran is not as good as you, little brother Fengqi. Mr. Qian, who was already in his 70s, shook hands with Cao Fengqi while leaning on crutches and said with some sigh. Ah, Mr. Qian and Liao liked it. Cao Fengqi smiled modestly. This is not Liao Zhan. Mr. Qian shook his head. I'm old and the doctor won't let me drink. Otherwise, I have to follow Fengqi and have a big drink today, little brothers. The body is the most important thing. Cao Fengqi greeted Mr. Qian politely, and then got to know the rest of the Qian family. Hello, brother Fengqi. Shen Shanshan's eyes lit up when she saw him, and she shouted with a smile. Well. He smiled and nodded, but didn't say anything more. Shen Shanshan also acts like a good girl at home and doesn't talk much. Mr. Cao, I got a piece of news about Guo Huaixiong and his family. While everyone was eating, Zhou Wenju suddenly spoke to him after receiving a message. Cao Fengqi looked at him. Mr. Zhou, what's the news? The news is that Guo Xiaohua, and Guo Hao's wife all had their legs broken. It is said that someone rushed into the hospital and beat them badly. Zhou Wenju pursed his lips and said. Cao Fengqi was stunned when he heard the news and looked at Chen Long and the others. Boss, we don't bother to do such despicable things. Chen Long and the others said immediately. I know it's not you gentlemen. Zhou Wenju also immediately spoke. I heard from some people in the church that it should be Li Kaoxiong who did it. Li Kaoxiong? Cao Fengqi immediately thought that the original reason for his enmity with the Guo family was this Li Kaoxiong. Yes. Zhou Wenju nodded. Not long after Guo Xiaohua broke his leg last year, Li Kaoxiong also broke his legs and is still in a wheelchair. The reason for this is obvious. Now the news of the bankruptcy of Guo Huaixiong and his family has spread throughout the city. The Guo family has also plummeted from the top 10 families in the past, so it is most likely that Li Kaoxiong did it. Of course, some people say that it was Guo Huaixiong's other opponents who did it. After all, they always retaliate and have many enemies. When Cao Fengqi and the others heard this, they didn't know what to say. All we can say is that Guo Huaixiong and the others deserved it. When you were rich, you acted too harshly. Now if you fall down, someone will come to take revenge immediately, without even a day's wait. It's really a twist of fate. It's time for everyone to push down the wall. Uncle Hong commented with a smile. Cao Fengqi and the others smiled and didn't pay too much attention. Anyway, their grudges have been completely settled. But this news can be considered good news. Then everyone continued to drink and chat, and a warm dinner ended at 10 o'clock. Today's young people are really powerful. In this era, they can still stir up the storm in Hong Kong. Seeing Cao Fengqi leaving, Mr. Qian couldn't help but sigh again. Everyone in the Qian family around them nodded slightly. Mr. Qian suddenly looked at his granddaughter and said, Shanshan, do you have a crush on that Cao Fengqi? Ah. Grandpa, I. Qian Shanshan's face immediately turned red when his grandfather asked him in front of the whole family because of his sudden words. He quickly shook his head. No, how could I? Oh, your grandpa is just old and his eyesight is blurry, but he is not blind. Xian Lao smiled and shook his head, looked at her and continued, it's a little difficult for you to be with such an outstanding and young man. Even if he agrees, you have to be prepared. Ah. What preparations? Although Qian Shanshan didn't want to admit it, he couldn't help but ask. There are not many good men like your grandfather. I have only found 2 grandmas for you in my life. Mr. Qian spoke slowly, with a hint of pride. When Qian Shanshan heard this, his eyes immediately widened. If this was not her grandfather, she would definitely yell, old man, are 2 too few? Is this something to be proud of? Is this a matter of honor? But when he thought about the powerful people of his grandfather's generation, which one didn't have several wives? In addition, there are a lot of. Well, my grandfather is a good man. She pouted, a little unhappy. Adolescent girls have another worry.